If you want to wake up happy, go to bed grateful. So just show up every day with a sense of appreciation and gratitude, because sharing gratitude has a boomerang effect.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to When the Moment Chooses You. I am your host, Coach Charlene, and we have compassionate, courageous conversations, inspiring destiny moments, because every heartbeat matters. And I am extremely excited to have on the show today someone that I absolutely treasure. I literally just met her maybe about 2.5 years ago. And Roni is a trailblazer. She ignited so much passion in me when I went to this Women in Leadership program. So welcome to the show, Roni, and I'm so glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me, Charlene. It's always a pleasure to reconnect with you.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to start getting to it. I'd like to read the guest little short bio just because of all of their greatness and awesomeness. And so I'm just going to read a tidbit of what Roni does. So she's a senior director of Office of Talent and Development. She's a certified NVW, Integral and Linkage coach, certified workplace mindfulness facilitator, certified, you're going to have to help me with this one, Iyengar, yoga teacher. Okay, good. Cool. And a KP Culture of Health champion. Prior to joining KP, she served as a finance executive at Chevron and Charles Schwab. She joined KP in 2006 and served as an executive consultant to several senior finance executives. Launched the Office of Talent Development in 2015. She's a native Californian, married for 33 years with 2 adult daughters and 2 lovable dogs, Gigi and Sola. Enjoying teaching yoga and mindfulness, coaching leaders, and spreading gratitude. And that is absolutely her. She is like a light in the midst of darkness. So welcome to the show again, Roni. And you want to tell us anything else about yourself? I read a little bit about you, but let me hear some of your superpowers, because I know you have plenty.
Years ago, a couple folks that worked for me described me as being a super connector. And I think that's true. I really enjoy connecting people together, or connecting people with different experiences or opportunities. So maybe that's a word that I would use to describe myself that's not in my bio. I enjoy being a super connector.
That's awesome. And I absolutely agree with that 100%. And now, Roni, when I started this podcast, it was the conception came in 2020, when a lot of us went through a lot of different things with COVID-19, with the double pandemic, with the systemic racism and all of that stuff that we just kind of are still living in, but are moving from. So there's those moments, I believe, that actually transform us. And that particular moment transformed me and made me be more of a voice. And so as I'm having guests on here, I'd love to hear your story where you believe that a moment chose you.
Yeah, I thank you for that. I would say the moment that chose me, there are probably many in my life, but the one that so resonates with me and really ended up allowing an opportunity for you and I to connect was in early 2015. My husband and I were sort of sitting down and thinking about retirement. And, I am still a Schwab client, very proud Schwab client. So we sat down with our financial consultant and said, hey, we're thinking about retiring at this point in time and this year. Can you model that and see if that's even feasible, for us to do so? And in February of 2015, they came back and said, yeah, I think you all can swing that. That gave me pause. That gave me pause because I realized, oh my gosh, like I have at that point, it was 6 years. I ended up, because of what, like you said, everything going on, I've delayed it a year. But at that point, that was 6 years away. And so I really sort of paused and thought about, wow, what I do next, maybe the last thing that I do in my corporate career, at least. So what is it that I want to do? So actually, I am a financial professional and leader by nature. But for the most part, during my tenure at Kaiser Permanente up to that point and subsequent, I had not been doing what I call sort of traditional line finance roles. I had been doing a lot of work around employee development and leadership development, things that I'm really passionate about. So I basically spent some time thinking through, what is it that I want to do? And, how can I take what I think are my unique gifts, talents, passions, and interest? And is there an opportunity in the organization? Is there a gap to be filled? Can I somehow take what I'm really good at and passionate about and really do something for the company? Can that be my legacy? What is going to be my legacy? And so through that thinking and soul searching and journaling and probably a lot of other things, and some researching, right, I found out, and in talking to different friends that work at different companies, there are chief talent officers or chief talent and culture officers or things of that nature. And so I decided that that's what I want to do, that my gift back to this company that I love would be to help grow the next generation of leaders, at least in the finance organization is where it started, because I'm a finance, so I understand their day job, but I'm really passionate about the people and certainly passionate about the company. And so I sort of set aside my nervousness and scheduled a meeting with 3 senior executives in the company, one of whom was my boss at the time, and pitched an idea for a new organization, a new role. And that was in March of 2015. And in May of 2015, they called me in a meeting and basically offered me the role that I had pitched to them, and you've probably heard me, it's my dream job to lead what we call our Office of Talent Development, because every day, and now it's been since 2015, I don't think, lost any passion for it yet. And every day I have the immense pleasure and such a privilege to come to work every day and ideate and create and talk about and brainstorm and pilot and launch a host of, learning and development opportunities and employee and leadership development programs to really enable all of our employees to reach their full potential, whatever that may be. Not all of them want to be a CEO or CFO or anything of that nature, but they certainly have a lot of potential and certainly a lot to offer the company. So that was my moment, right? Really realizing that this is it for me in terms of my corporate career. And what do I want to do with these last 6 or 7 years? That was really, truly a moment, Charlene.
Wow. That is so amazing. And every time I hear your story, I get chills because that is bold. That is absolutely bold. But I wanted to ask you a question, though. I heard you say something about you got to a space in your life where, in your career, that it was like, okay, what do I want to do now? Yeah. That journey right there, what can you help us to understand that moment to be able to actually describe what do I want?
Yes. And as you very well know, in our Women in Leadership program, we spend a lot of time talking about getting clear and clarity. And that's just something that we don't often do. And I can admit to that. My story is basically saying just that, right? Up until that point in time, I had never just sat back, sort of turned my autopilot way of moving through the world off for a few moments and sat back and thought about, what do I want? What's next for me? For whatever reason, sort of that conversation just opened something up in me. And I thought, wow, this is it for me. So it's kind of unfortunate because I probably should have been doing that at different points in my career. And that is something that we talk about. It's definitely a phenomenon that we know is very familiar with a lot of women. We're so busy doing, not to say that men don't do this as well, but we're so busy doing that we just don't pause and think about what we want. And especially for women, we're so busy doing for others that we don't give ourselves permission It feels a little selfish to say, well, what do I want? What's next for me? So it's unfortunate that it took something like that to trigger that in me, to give myself permission to do that. I probably should have done it a long time ago. But it was really that was the trigger for me. And, you said bold, and, looking back on it, it was bold. I had to, the language we use. I had to absolutely quiet my inner critic before I scheduled that meeting and walked in that room with those three executives, because in my mind, what was coming up for me was, you're selfish. Really? You're going to go in there and ask for this for yourself? How selfish is that?
Yes.
So I really had to overcome that inner voice
Yes.
that was really criticizing me and trying to sort of stop me from doing what I felt I wanted to do in my gut. So it did feel bold at the time. I'll say that, because I felt there weren't a lot of times in my career that I had to make significant asks, on my own behalf.
Yeah, that was, and that was one of the most powerful things that I learned actually too, about getting to that point of clarity, because it's not a normal question that you ask, what do you want? When you ask that question, it was like, whoa, this is powerful. I had a mentor that also asked us that question and we couldn't really answer it. So I love that now, out of your awakening, now you're getting other people to actually ask the question early enough in their career so that they can do some different things if they need to. So that's so I really honor you for that. Now, Roni, has it been easy? Or have you had any obstacles, any barriers, any challenges that you can help the listeners to understand?
So what I would say is this: I haven't had any barriers or obstacles in terms of doing what I wanted to do within the company. No one, in fact, I look back on it and as to why haven't I hit up against barriers? Let me back up. The barriers and obstacles were within me. The barriers and obstacles were me overcoming that inner critic saying, how dare you ask this? How dare you make that ask? That is selfish. After I made the ask and those words finally came out of my mouth, I remember there was a small bit of silence among the three of them. And they immediately didn't react immediately. And boy, did my inner critic kick in. See, I told you so. How selfish of you. How dare you? It felt like an hour. It was probably like 10 seconds before one of them spoke up. And, I think it just gave them pause, because no one had ever pitched this idea to them. This role didn't exist. This team did not exist. But I think, so the reason why I don't think I hit up against barriers and obstacles is simply this. I have a wonderful mentor at the company, CJ Bahala. And so this meeting that was taking place was in 2015. In 2011, I was working for her as her executive consultant. And we were having a conversation. And I said, you know what? This has been a great gig. I'm ready for something. I'm ready for a new challenge. So I just want to share with you that I'm going to be looking for a new opportunity, certainly within the company, because I have certainly drank the Kool-Aid that is Kaiser Permanente. And I certainly want to stay here. I certainly believe in our mission. And she asked me a question. I'll never forget. It was October of 2011. What would be your dream job? What was her question to me? And I described the job that I pitched in 2015. So there was a connection there. It was already planted in my head, because she, out of the blue, and we had been working together because we worked together at Schwab. By then we had been working together for, 10 plus years. And it wasn't a question she had ever asked me before. And so that gave me pause, and I thought about it, and I basically said, everything that I've been doing in this part of the organization relative to employee development, leadership development, I would love to do that for the entire finance organization. And so a few weeks later, she transitioned to a new role, and the senior executive she was working for was looking to hire an executive consultant. And I had made it clear to her that I wasn't going to look for another executive consultant role. But she came to me and said, hey, he has this role open, would you consider it? And why I ended up being really interested in the role is his job for his his primary role was he had 15 at that point in time, 15 of our senior finance executives reported to him. And my role was really engaging and supporting that community. So I said to myself, if my dream job were to ever exist, it would really be beneficial for me to have built relationships with all those senior leaders. And so I took that role, and that's what I served them. I certainly did, but I was just building relationships and really starting to do work with them around talent and learning about the talent in the organization. And so when this dream job landed in my lap and I had to start making a lot of asks of them to support the programs and the things that I wanted to do, I didn't hesitate. And I really get a no. They are just so gracious with their time. It's important to them. They don't just talk about, career development and talent development as something to talk about. They actually roll up their sleeves and have been very generous in gifting me and our programs and our employees with their time. So I think that super connected habit of mine of building relationships and networking has really paid off. I think that's why I haven't hit up against a lot of obstacles and hurdles.
Well, that's wonderful. And thank you for sharing that. Hey, I'm wondering, what can you tell people out here that are really kind of in this place of where they're kind of bored, not really interested in what they're doing anymore, but they still want to be passionate about what they're doing? What can you encourage someone? It could be a woman in leadership. It could be anybody, really, because I think there's people that want to grow and then they get to this place where they feel like they're stuck. And so do you have any advice for someone, since you're so awesome at helping people see their greatness and then go for it?
I think you said the first thing that is so important. Well, the first step is just getting clear on what you want. I often will have folks reach out to me, Roni, can I get on your calendar? I'd love to have a career conversation. And usually what I will say in response is absolutely happy to connect. But please don't put time on my calendar until you can share with me where you see yourself in 3 to 5 years.
Yes.
Or what is the last job you want before you retire? So maybe it's further out there. But they have to have some sort of direction, right? Some vision for what they want. So that's step number 1, right? Be selfish. Spend some time just thinking about what is it that you want. And also spend some time getting really clear on what your values are.
Yes.
Because you'll want to pursue something that is aligned with your values, right? So spend some time getting clear on what you want. And part of that is exactly what you were saying, Charlene. Part of that is getting really clear on what your strengths are, right?
Yes.
And I think that there are a myriad of ways that you can kind of uncover that information if you don't have it all, or validate that information. Reach out to your network, ask people, when they think about you, what comes to mind? What words would they use to describe you? Sometimes it's journaling. Sometimes I'll give someone a journaling practice. At the end of the day, look back on your day. What really gave you energy? And what were those things that kind of drained you? So spend some time thinking about getting clear on what kind of where you, and it doesn't have to be a specific role. Obviously, the more specificity, the easier it will be to kind of navigate forward and for people to help you. But it doesn't have to be. Oftentimes it's not. Oftentimes it's difficult. Not everyone can point to that job. I want that. That's my next job, right? Very rare for that to happen. So just kind of give yourself some time to think of where you see yourself in terms of your future vision for your career, for your life. Spend some time thinking about your values. Spend some time really honing in on what are your strengths. And here's the other thing, just because it's a strength doesn't mean you want to do more of it. So
right.
What are the things, right? I mean, what are the things that you have some unique talents, what we call I often use the word superpower. What are your superpowers? And then, look for some opportunities in the company. How can you take your superpowers and really close a gap or help fill a role? We have plenty of opportunities in the company to solve problems, right? Are you uniquely positioned based on your values and your strength to help us solve some of the things that we need to solve. And the last thing I would say is this, maybe there's a few things I would say at that point in time. Then it's really a matter of leveraging your network, getting comfortable, stepping outside your comfort zone, perhaps, and making some bold asks of folks. And the last thing I'll say is this: do not self-reject. Do not allow your inner critic to talk you out of it before you throw your hat in the ring, right? Do not do that, right? Let them say no to you. Let them say no to you. And it's so interesting because, especially, and we talk about this in our Women in Leadership program, I will often ask, so how many times do you say no to somebody? And what is the answer? Rarely, right? But yet we feel as though everyone's going to say no to us.
Right.
So put it out there in the universe, right? Quiet that inner critic, step into your confidence, be bold. Utilize your network to help you along. I will often say, and I said this yesterday to a coaching client, once you get clear on what you want, shout it from the mountaintops, because you don't know who's going to be in a room where there's an opportunity on the table and you want folks to shout your name in a room full of opportunities. But if they don't know what your strengths are and what you're interested in, they're not going to be able to do that. So once you get clear, share it.
That is so powerful. It really is, because quite honestly, with my journey, it was I think probably about 4 years now, I've just started being okay with saying what I'm great about. Yeah. So I hear a lot of women, in particular, they don't like saying how great they are in certain areas. And so I thought that was very interesting. What do you think that is, Roni?
Well, I just, as you know, we're just launching our next program. And so I'm in the midst of doing a lot of coaching. I think what I've noticed is this. I think that, and that's why I really love the 360 tool we use for this program, because I think we use other 360 tools. 360 tools are great. You can't change what you're not aware of. So it's great to kind of get that surround sound feedback. What I think is so wonderful about the tool that we use for this program is it does such a wonderful job of shining a spotlight on their unique talent, the value and the contributions they're bringing to the table each day. So I think what it is this. They show up every day and they are just doing things that are natural to them, that are strengths to them, and that they think everyone else is doing. And it isn't until they get this report and when people are calling it out and naming it, they're like, wow. It was, I said to one of the clients yesterday, I'm like, I don't think you're the kind of person that comes in and say, okay, today I'm going to be inspiring. Yeah, that's on my to-do list. You just show up, and the way you engage with people, because she's like, I'm shocked that people called me inspiring. Well, it's not because you are consciously, trying to do that. Look at the comments, read through the comments they're sharing with you. It's those moment by moment interactions. It's not some grandiose gesture. So I think that's what it is. I think that I don't really think that they're trying to be humble. I think that they just don't realize how some of what they're doing is so valued and people appreciate it. So I think that's what it is. I think that's partly what it is. I mean, there might be some conscious, decisions to be humble. But I think it's more that they just show up with these inherent gifts and just take it for granted. That's just how they show up every day.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking with a friend, and she just went for Miss Black USA, and she actually won. And we were talking about how, like, for us in our culture, we had to be humble. So you can never say anything good about yourself because it looks like you're being prideful, and it looks like you're like this Miss Know-it-all. And so I think I adopted a lot of that for so long until I start really recognizing, wow, I am one who inspires. Wow, I am good at doing A, B, and C. And then when I went through that program, oh my God, the lid came off.
And it was validating, right? It was validating to you. And, the second week of the program, we touch on exactly most of what we have to sort of, it's a lot of inner work. And the second week in employment, we're talking about inner biases. It's all the biases that we grew up with because of things like that. We have all these biases based on our experiences that we bring forward. And it's that chirping in your ear, right? Be humble.
Yes.
So yeah, that's, it's a journey of overcoming hurdles. And most of them are internal hurdles. Not to say there aren't organizational hurdles that we hit up against, but a lot of it is inner work that we have to do.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much. It's been so great having you here. I always ask the people that I interview, if I had to say, what is Roni's top 3? What to encourage people to respond to those moments? Now, I know you have multiple moments, but what is Roni's top 3 for someone when they do get called into a moment to respond to?
Okay, I would say the top one, and this really comes from, all of my work in the mindfulness arena. The first thing is you just have to be present. You have to be present and pause and give yourself that time, right? I will say that, when I'm running a mindfulness workshop, as I'm introducing myself, I'll share, how did this type A finance executive leader, somebody that was just, wore her badge of busyness as a badge of honor, just move through life on autopilot. Like, how did I find my way to mindfulness practices? And, be present. That's number one, be present, because you'll miss those opportunities. You'll miss those moments if you're not really being present. And that really goes for every aspect of your life, right? We've all, I'm sure, had moments in our life where we realized that, wow, I didn't realize that was the last fill in the blank conversation I was going to have with that person, interaction I was going to have with that person. So, treat each moment as if it's precious, because we often don't realize it was until it's gone. So number one, be present. Be present so you can spot those moments, right? And then take action. I think the second one is, and we talked a little bit about this, certainly sort of befriending our inner critic, but the other thing is you have to be willing to, step on the ledge, step on the edge of your comfort zone, right? Because that moment is not going to be comfortable, right? There's a quote, I think it says something along the lines of, there is no growth in the comfort zone, and there is no learning. Wait, is that right? There is no comfort in the learning zone, but there is no learning in the comfort zone, right? So you have to be willing to step outside your comfort zone. And often what I will share is I will not push you off the ledge of the cliff of your comfort zone as your coach, but I will certainly ask you to take those baby steps outside the edge of your comfort zone. So A, be present so that you can sort of spot those moments. B, be willing to step outside your comfort zone, because that's where the growth is going to happen. And the third one, I'd have to say, it's really 4. So I'm going to say 2, grace and gratitude. So I think that, let's start with grace. I think you have to give yourself grace, right? Progress over perfection. It's not going to be easy. It's probably going to be a little bit hard. That's uncomfortable. Give yourself grace. There's probably going to be missteps along the way. And the other thing is, if you want to wake up happy, go to bed grateful. So just show up every day with a sense of appreciation and gratitude, because sharing gratitude has a boomerang effect. It's been proven, number one. And number 2, we used to think that once we got to that island of perfect life where everything was perfect, then we would be, grateful. Everything was perfect. We were happy, that island of happiness and perfection, then we would be grateful. But now we know through positive psychology research that it's absolutely the opposite, right? Feeling grateful fosters happiness. So look for opportunities to spread gratitude in your life.
Wow, that is powerful. I am so excited, and I'm extremely inspired once again, just by having a conversation with you. So I want, if anybody wanted to follow you or get in touch with you, is there a way that they
I
can
am
do
on
that?
LinkedIn. You can find
Hey.
me on LinkedIn, certainly. Absolutely. Reach out. Happy to have a conversation.
Well, that is wonderful. So thank you so much, Roni, for being on. I hope you were inspired as I was inspired. And if you want to get in touch with Roni, she is on LinkedIn. So connect with her there. Thank you for joining the podcast today. And thank you, Roni, for coming.
And thank you, Charlene, for paying it forward, for showing up and helping us deliver on our mission every day. I think I describe my job as very rewarding, and helping
Yes.
employees bring their best selves and whole selves to work every day and to reach their full potential. I don't use the word meaningful to describe my work. I really save that for those of you that are on the front lines serving our members. That is the meaningful work. So thank you for everything you do every day to help us deliver on our mission.
Oh, that's special. Thank you so much, Roni.